from our Toronto studios. This is the Muslim News on Muslim Network TV. Assalamu alaikum, I'm Zahra Sayed. Our top story tonight. The U.S. State Department has confirmed the death of an American civilian in the occupied West Bank. A State Department spokesperson says the U.S. is trying to understand the circumstances of the incident and has asked Israel for more information. Earlier, National Security Council spokesperson John Kirby said the U.S. was seriously concerned at reports that Israeli forces fatally shot a Palestinian American teen. 17-year-old Tawfiq Hafiz Hajazi was killed Friday by the Israeli army near the town of Al-Mazra, al-Sharqiya, east of Ramallah. According to the official Palestinian news agency, he was shot in the head. Israeli police say they are investigating the shooting. Israel's prime minister has reiterated his strong opposition to the establishment of a Palestinian state. During a recent conversation with Biden, Netanyahu said a Palestine state is incompatible with Israel's need for full security control over the entire region west of the Jordan River. The news comes following Biden's efforts to promote the idea of a disarmed Palestinian nation, one that would not pose a threat to Israel's security. Biden has consistently argued the creation of a Palestinian state represents the most viable long-term solution to the decades-long conflict. It's also the position held by most American and European leaders. United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres is expressing deep concern over Netanyahu's statements opposing a Palestinian state. He is calling Netanyahu's stance totally unacceptable. While addressing the Third South Summit in Kampala, Uganda, Guterres described Israel's military actions in Gaza as heartbreaking. Guterres says the situation in the Middle East is volatile. He is calling the international community to take every possible measure to prevent a wider regional conflict. Senator Bernie Sanders is calling for an end to the U.S. military aid to Israel. The news comes following Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's public declaration against a Palestinian state. Sanders says Netanyahu's refusal to allow a Palestinian state would perpetuate a devastating war on innocent Palestinians and hinder humanitarian aid. He says leaders should be able to say no to their closest allies. He is urging President Joe Biden to shift his stance in providing unconditional support for Israel. Sanders says instead the U.S. should take a stand against Netanyahu's right-wing government. He is also calling on Congress to halt military aid to Israel. For the 107th consecutive day, Israel's relentless attacks on the blocked Gaza Strip continue. Footage shows smoke rising from sites of Israeli attacks in Khan Yunis in the southern Gaza Strip. At least 25,105 Palestinians have been killed since the onset of Israel's war. Most of them are women and children. Palestinian health authorities report 62,681 Palestinians are injured. The United Nations reports the Israeli offensive has left 85% of Gaza's population internally displaced. It says nearly 60% of the enclave's infrastructure has been damaged or destroyed. There is an acute shortage of food, clean water, and medicine. Several Jewish students at American University have lodged a civil rights complaint for fostering a hostile environment of anti-Semitism on campus. Junior Tomer Ben Ezer and fellow Jewish students have submitted a complaint to the U.S. Department of Education Office of Civil Rights. They accuse American University of disregarding discrimination and harassment issues. Ben Ezer's petition is supported by the Brandeis Center for Human Rights Under Law and the Jewish on Campus group. He says 2 FBI agents were present at a recent piano recital due to harassment he endured because of his Israeli heritage. Freshman Ethan Kassar has reported instances of swastikas being drawn on campus doors. American University has confirmed 3 investigations into campus swastikas in the past 3 years. The university claims it is engaging with Jewish student groups and incorporating anti-Semitism into the curriculum. However, students hope for more concrete actions to address the ongoing issue. More than 13,000 people have been killed and 26,000 others injured in the ongoing conflict in Sudan since last year. The UN Humanitarian Office says about 7.6 million people have been displaced inside and outside Sudan since fighting broke out. Sudan has been mired by conflict between the army and the Rapid Support Forces paramilitary group since April of last year. Sudan's army is led by General Abdel Fattah al Burhan, who heads the country's ruling sovereign council. The UN office reports 269 deaths have occurred due to cholera since mid January. There are another 9,700 suspected cholera cases. Several ceasefire agreements brokered by Saudi and the US mediators have failed to end the ongoing violence in Sudan. The Indian Prime Minister has inaugurated the controversial Ram Temple in Uttar Pradesh. Details come after the break. Stay tuned and we'll be right back. Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi on Monday inaugurated a grand Ram Temple in Ayodhya in the province of Uttar Pradesh. The temple replaces the historic Babri Mosque demolished by Hindu extremists in 1992. Modi led the consecration ceremony. The move is seen by many as political. They say it is meant to bolster Modi's chances in the general elections in the coming months. Several political parties have accused Modi's ruling Hindu nationalist Bharatiya Janata Party of exploiting religion for political gain. The top priests of 4 prominent Hindu monasteries also criticized the consecration of an unfinished temple and questioned Modi's role in the ceremony. Construction of the temple began following a 2019 Supreme Court ruling awarding the land to Hindus. The temple has been built at a cost of $217 million. It holds immense significance for upper caste Hindus, who believe it to be the birthplace of their deity, Lord Ram. Modi told Indian citizens to celebrate the event by lighting lamps at home and local shrines. He calls the temple the symbol of cultural, spiritual, and social unity. The government announced a half-day closure of offices to allow employees to participate in the celebrations. The U.S. Central Command has conducted airstrikes against a Houthi anti-ship missile aimed at the Gulf of Aden this past Saturday. The command says the missile posed a significant threat to merchant vessels and the U.S. Navy ships. The defensive measures follow a series of strikes against Houthi targets initiated by the U.S. and the U.K. 2 weeks ago. The attacks are part of Operation Prosperity Guardian, a multinational mission to counter Houthi attacks. The Biden administration says the strikes are meant to reduce the Houthis' capability to target vessels in the Red Sea. The militant group has issued threats against Israeli-bound vessels in solidarity with Palestinians in Gaza facing Israeli aggression and siege. Duke University in North Carolina has organized an education workshop for students and faculty members to combat Islamophobia and promote understanding. The university's Center for Muslim Life organized the event to raise awareness of Islamophobia's impact and highlighted the diversity within the Muslim community. Joshua Salam, chaplain and center director, and Hadil Hamoud, program coordinator, facilitated the workshop. They discussed key concepts related to Islam, the history of Muslims in the U.S., and the effects of Islamophobia. Attendees shared their perceptions of Muslims. Salam and Hamoud emphasized the importance of personal education, reporting incidents of Islamophobia, and fostering inclusion to support Duke's Muslim community. The workshop is part of ongoing efforts to create a more inclusive campus environment. It also focused on finding ways to support the Muslim community on campus. New York City Mayor Eric Adams has vetoed 2 significant ordinances passed by the City Council. The first measure aims to ban solitary confinement in city jails. The practice is deemed torture by the United Nations and human rights organizations if it lasts more than 15 consecutive days. The move has sparked controversy, given recent deaths linked to solitary confinement at Rikers Island. The second measure seeks to enhance transparency and oversight of the New York Police Department. Despite Adams' vetoes, both ordinances garnered more than enough votes to potentially override his decisions. Brooklyn Borough President Antonio Reynoso says he is disappointed at Adams' stance. He says Adams should focus on issues beyond these veto-proof bills. Pastor Chris Avell has pleaded not guilty for opening his church to homeless people during freezing weather conditions. The news comes as Avell, who supervises an evangelical church in Bryan, Ohio, is accused of violating 18 zoning code restrictions. Last winter, Avell drew attention from the Bryan City Zoning Commission for sheltering unhoused people in his church. However, in November, officials prohibited him from continuing this practice. Avel defied official orders and opened his church to the homeless again this winter. He was issued citations for violations during a New Year's Eve service. Avel defended his actions, saying if the church is not willing to lay down its life for them, then who will? The case has sparked debate and accusations of religious persecution. Some view it as a rare instance of state interference in Christian charitable efforts. At least 190 Palestinians have been killed and 340 others wounded in Gaza in the past 24 hours. Al Jazeera Arabic reports 40 bodies have been transferred to the medical complex. Graves are being dug inside the Nasser complex due to high casualties from ongoing clashes. Dr. Ahmed Al Moghrabi, head of plastic surgery and burns at Nasser Hospital in Khan Yunis, says there is bombing all around. The Palestine Media Office in Gaza reports Israeli forces bombing various civilian shelters. These include Al Aqsa University Shelter, University College Accommodation, Khalidiyah School Shelter, and the Al Mawasi School Shelter, and Khan Yunis Industry Shelter. Nearly 30,000 displaced people are taking refuge in these shelters. In Khan Yunis, dozens have been killed as Israeli forces target hospitals, ambulances, and schools housing thousands of civilians. Israeli troops continue to mock Gaza and its residents. A soldier named Itamar Bello proudly showcased the demolition of 40 residential buildings in a video on Facebook. In a significant move, Columbia Mayor Barbara Buffalo has signed a proclamation urging an immediate bilateral ceasefire in the Israel-Palestine conflict. Buffalo is serving her first term in office leading the Missouri town. The proclamation condemns the targeting of civilians. It also demands the release of all prisoners, unrestricted humanitarian aid access to Gaza, and restoration of essential supplies such as food, water, electricity, and medical resources. The proclamation says it is important to respect international law and safeguard the security of innocent civilians. It acknowledges the severe humanitarian crisis in Gaza, where nearly more than 1 million residents are children. The proclamation also addresses the rise of anti Semitic, anti Palestinian, and other forms of discrimination and violence nationwide. Buffalo's proclamation aligns with urgent pleas from Columbia residents who have been demonstrating regularly for peace since the onset of Israel's war in October. That's all from our Toronto studios tonight. Thank you for tuning in. You can subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the bell icon for the latest updates. For more content, keep watching Muslim Network TV or visit muslimnetwork.tv. Assalamu alaikum and good night.